What is up, everyone? It's Ryan Moran and Ryan Gallagher here. Today, we're going to do our first 2022 NFL mock draft. We're going to use the Draft Network simulator, and we're going to do all 32 picks in the first round. So, looking forward to this one. Ryan, anything?
Yeah, I'm excited just to go into it. Obviously, this is before free agency, and so things will be changing throughout the months. But most of these draft picks are set in position besides the final four, so it's kind of exciting just to dive into it and see where teams are at this point.
Absolutely. So, we will get going.
Alrighty.
Starts off with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, so the number one pick isn't, I don't think, set in stone like it has been the last couple of seasons. Obviously, they're not going quarterback. And while I think during the season, everyone kind of assumed the first two picks would be Hutchinson and Thibodeau. I'm kind of getting the feeling that, I mean, it's still very early, but I'm getting the feeling they're going to go offense tackle, whether that's Evan Neal or Ickey.
Ike Mekwonu.
Yep. What do you think?
For me here, I think it's either Kayvon Thibodeau or Ike Mekwonu.
Okay, so what do you want?
I think I'm leaning towards Ekem, though, honestly, just to help Trevor.
Yeah, I think Dane Bucher was the first person to put him as a mock for tackle one. I think he's my tackle one personally. I don't know how the draft's gonna go.
I agree.
You can make a case that he could play guard too, but I guess like Evan Neal also has the versatility because Jacksonville have like Walker Little. I know they like Cam Robinson's a free agent. I don't know if he's coming back, and then Jawan Taylor's been kind of a disappointment. So I do think this pick should be focused on getting Trevor Lawrence back in the right direction and just kind of doing everything they can to turn it around, offensively speaking. And I do think it'll be a tackle on draft night. But yeah, the Lions I think have been set in stone. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees it's going to be a pass rusher. It's just
Absolutely.
a question of which of the two. Personally, I would take Kayvon, but I do think the Lions will take Hutchinson.
You know, I'm with you. I all along for me, Kayvon Thibodeau has been the best player in the draft. I love him, but I think you're right. Just with the Michigan connection there in Detroit, Hutchinson had an incredible year, and to me, you really can't go wrong with him here.
Yeah, I think both players will be productive pros. So,
agree.
The Texans, this one's been changing throughout a lot of mock drafts. Obviously, we don't know like the whole who they're hiring as the coach, so like there's a lot of uncertainty here. I mean, if I was them, I would just take Kayvon. But the Texans are they're not run very well right now. Like there's a lot going on. So they could end up just taking the best player in the draft, and that might be Cal Hamilton on some boards. And I could also see them taking Evan Neal. There's been a lot of talk about Laramie Tunsil being traded, which I actually think happens in the offseason to a team like the Bengals, something like that. One of these playoff teams that's not going to be able to get a tackle in the top of the draft. I could definitely see that. So for right now, I think Kayvon would be the pick.
I agree.
I think a lot's going to change. And if Tunsil is traded this offseason, I think this is a primary landing spot for a tackle as well.
To help Davis Mills, right? And I agree with you. I think those three that you said, Kayvon, Hamilton, and Neal, are definitely the top three in play here. But I would go Kayvon.
Yeah, and I think my answer might change if they hire a New England disciple because they focus on secondary a lot. So I think I would actually go Hamilton there if it's like Mayo, for example.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
So obviously, as Jeff fans, these are the three players I kind of want. So this would be kind of a little disappointing. But at the same time, Evan Neal fell to us. I think our stance has been pretty clear. I think the Jets are either going if any of the two edge rushers fall or one of these tackles.
Absolutely.
So Evan Neal, I think, has fallen to us. He has the versatility to play whatever position we want on the line.
Obviously, with Fenton Becton as the two tackles, you could start Neal at right guard where the Jets do have a need right away. So
I think it gets really interesting if the Jets take care of right guard and free agency. Then what's the trust level in Becton / Fant? I think I would still take Neal because like at this point in the draft, I'm just going to take. It's like I know it's not a need right now, but you can never have enough offensive linemen. I think you find even if you have to wait a year or I think it's a good problem to have, but it would just get a little bit tricky. But I think the Jets would have a good idea of what's happening in front of them. So I think that'll kind of play their hand a little bit in free agency.
Dictate it, right.
And I guess there's a slight possibility. I mean, I would trade a third round pick to move up one spot if we really want a pass rusher, if that's like
Right.
the main goal. So like they have a lot of options.
Definitely.
Um, the Giants at this point probably are really disappointed by how the way the board fell.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they want guys in the trenches as well to kind of rebuild the team. I don't think they're going quarterback, even though they hired a new general manager and obviously a new coach is coming soon. I just think they stick it out with Daniel Jones for like one more season. So here's a little bit interesting. Where do you think they head here?
I think Hamilton is undisputedly the best player, but with Xavier McKinney, Logan Ryan, Julian Love, I don't know that from a value standpoint it makes a ton of sense here. Honestly, who I was really thinking of was Charles Cross. Having
Yeah,
him and Andrew
I was
Thomas.
thinking that too. Because Carolina
Having,
have a need and they're picking right after them. So like
right.
the Giants, even though they have pick 7, might not be able to take Cross at 7. Um,
Agreed.
I don't think Cross has been. I think he's definitely rising. I don't think he's been a consistent top 10 pick yet. But
Right.
the season he has as a pass protector, and throughout draft season, there's always risers. I think Charles Cross will be kind of definitely in the mix in the top 10, like almost a foregone conclusion come draft time.
And he's still a very young prospect with room to grow. So
The Carolina Panthers, an interesting team. They could also a quarterback here, but you kind of have Sam Darnold for one more season. Obviously, they have a pretty decent roster. There's obviously holes on the offensive line and stuff they need to address. I was thinking of taking the center here, Linderbaum, but that's extremely early. And I'm pretty sure Matt Rule and them are on the hot seat. So I don't know if they're banking the season on taking a center. It's a big need. It obviously is, and tackle, but the first 3 tackles in our mock are gone right now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, the board did not play to their favor here. Honestly, I think you got to almost go with Kyle Hamilton here.
Yeah, and they took J.C. Horn last year. They built up the secondary. They traded for C.J. Henderson from the Jaguars. Gilmore's also a free agent. They got him as well. So they have some, and Dante Jackson. So there is secondary possibly concerns going forward or question marks. I don't think that's ideal. I don't think Panthers fans will be happy with that. But I guess sometimes the way that the board falls, I think teams will go best player available. And Hamilton is a really, really good prospect. So the Giants are up again. We got the tackle.
I think they probably here, right?
Say that again.
I think they probably go edge, right?
I'm thinking that. I think Jeremiah had Devin Lloyd there. I kind of like that pick. But then again, like, is he worth the top 7 pick? This draft is kind of weird because like there's a couple like really high end prospects, but most of it seems like they're pretty similar players from like kind of like 5 to like 20ish. Like it's still a good draft. Like there's a ton of depth and there's good players, and the Giants, they definitely need edge rusher. Karlaftis is tricky to me because he's all over the place.
I don't know if they run a 3-4 front, like if that's the right fit, which is why I'm almost leaning towards David Ojabo for them here.
Yeah, swing on the talent. More importantly, the thing is though, like, and you have to trust your coaching staff. So if Patrick Graham is back, I would like it because they kind of got a lot out of Azeez the first year, even though they got him around 2. I don't think Ojabo will be able to stop the run early on in his career, but the talent and the upside as a pass rusher is just undisputable.
Incredible.
And I think teams bet on that athleticism. I'd be shocked if he doesn't go in the top 10, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like Ojabo there. The Falcons.
The Falcons are up. So this is a team that really doesn't – they draft kind of the best player available. I think they're running it back Matt Ryan as well. This is interesting to me.
Losing Hamilton 2 picks before was tough, I think, for them here.
Yeah, because they could have won either of those players. I think if Hamilton does fall to them on draft day, I think that's who they turn the card in. We've seen it with Pitts.
I agree. This is a tricky one.
I'm almost wanting to bet on Stingley.
I think so too.
Just assuming like all the medicals and everything goes well at the combine and stuff. It just like, Stingley, if he came out after his freshman year, would have been easily a top 3 or 4 pick. Like the talent, but that 2019 season was unreal.
Unbelievable.
And they already have AJ Terrell. So like this might be a really nice cornerback tandem for a long time.
For sure. I love Stingley.
Yeah, it also wouldn't surprise me if Stingley's not the first cornerback taken. So it's just that kind of draft because the cornerback class is very good. So
very good.
Denver Broncos. So this is before free agency, obviously, and trades. I think right now, I'd go Pickett. I know they passed on the quarterbacks last year, and I think that as good as Surtain was, I don't know if that was the right call. We'll see what they do. Obviously, to address their quarterback situation this year. But like they had a good draft class last year. If you just exclude them not taking a quarterback, I think this is the time the Broncos have to get someone in here. That's an answer at quarterback. Because the roster is almost ready to go.
They really don't have very many needs when you go up and down,
Yeah.
the board with their roster. So Pickett makes a ton of sense here.
I think they will like exhaust all their options in free agency and trades if they can, seeing depending on who's available.
Right.
But obviously, that hasn't happened yet.
Yep.
So our Jets are up. We ended up getting Evan Neal at 4. What do
I
you
think it's got to be George Karlaftis here, right? Address the trenches on both sides of the ball. You get a guy who fits the 4-3 front, can play that left end position, provide some good athleticism for somebody who's as big as he is. He's productive. We've talked so much about the Jets adding, D-line help and just pass rushing talent. I like Karlaftis here a lot, and the value I think adds up.
Yeah. So if this happened, I wouldn't be upset with it. I definitely don't want him at 4. I think there's some question marks about his length and stuff, but we said it in yesterday's episode. Like the Jets defense under solid just relies on pressure and just on edge rushers. So this is a need. For me, since free agency hasn't happened yet, I think I'd go receiver here because we don't have. Okay. But I guess we'll take it under assumption that. Well,
I think two receivers that would be in play would have to be Traylon Burks and Garrett Wilson, correct? If we were to go receiver here.
Yeah. I don't even know what's one of them I'd choose. I think I'd choose Burks.
I would go Burks too.
But so for this mock, what do you want to do? You go Karlaftis?
It's either Karlaftis or Burks. What do you think?
Let's go Burks.
Okay, I'm all for it.
I'll tell you why. As much as our defense needs help, and it does. Like clearly, if you watch our episode about the Jets defense, like we need a lot of help. But at the same time, let's score some points. Let's get Zach Wilson to the best of his ability. And obviously, if we get a big time receiver, this will change. But for right now, we don't. We have Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, and then nothing else. So let's add some excitement, some yak ability to this offense.
I mean, between Traylon Burks and Elijah Moore, you would have it. And Burks is really a complete X receiver with size, his speed.
Yep. And even as Burks kind of like transitions into a route runner, the stuff that you can do and stuff the teams are doing, it's not just Deebo Samuel in the league. Obviously, that's the best example. But you can't just get another Deebo Samuel. They're not growing on trees. But other teams now are finding creative ways to use guys like Cordarrelle Patterson, for example, where he wasn't really used much of his career. But you've seen what Falcons did with him. And anybody that can, with the ball in their hand is dangerous. Like that's just Traylon Burks. And obviously, his talent at receiver is only going to get better as he gets into the NFL and gets experience under his belt.
I almost think he's like an AJ Brown sort of.
Yeah. And I mean, if you watch him, everyone watched him in the playoff game. So, all right. The Washington football team. I think this is another team that needs a quarterback. Just a tough kind of class. I don't even know who my quarterback 2 is. I don't think it's Corral, even though he's ranked here.
I think you'd have to go with Willis, right? You have to bet on traits, arm strength, athleticism.
Yeah. The only one I could think of besides him would be Sam Howell. That would be even consideration for me.
Right. He's an athlete. I guess the arm strength is such a big thing, Yeah.
And he had a down year, obviously, but I think a lot of people can turn to a lot of his talent went into the NFL from last year, from 2020.
Very true.
But, I think it is the best bet to bet on traits, honestly. He might take some growing pains, but Heinicke should be there at least as either a bridge or at least as a backup. So like there's some kind of that's not the answer, but it's not. You can do a lot worse than that.
For sure. And I like Corral too. Like he was great this year. It's just obviously that injury will probably hurt his stock a little bit.
So how many quarterbacks do you think going around 1?
Either 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, I think that's like the number. The Minnesota Vikings, an interesting team for sure.
No-brainer, quite honestly.
Say it again.
Karlaftis to me, especially if you lose Danielle Hunter.
Yeah, I'm under the assumption based on their cap space that they might have to lose Hunter, and Ojabo's gone. The 2 other edge rushers are gone. I think this is a good.
It's a good spot for Karlaftis.
Yep. It wouldn't surprise me if they're looking at cornerback too, though. Just they need definitely secondary help as well. The Browns, I think this is Garrett Wilson.
I'm with you.
It has to be one receiver, I think, at this point, because there's a good chance maybe even none get taken before their pick. Maybe one for sure come draft time, but they'll have basically the pick of the litter besides one, we'll say.
Yep.
and I think it could have been Jameson Williams, but I think Baker kind of they kind of need someone to go in right away.
Right. And with Anthony Schwartz, I don't necessarily know if Williams actually makes as much sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like Jameson though, I feel like it's kind of like a
He's
like
more complete,
more
100%.
complete. Yeah,
Right.
and
But
I
just
think
the speed element, like they almost already have that. You know what I mean? So
that's a good point. The Ravens, a team who typically takes the best player available and usually has quite a few people drop to them. Um,
this is a tough one.
this is a tough one.
I think oof,
Would they take a tackle?
they could take Trevor Penning. Honestly, I think is that who Daniel Jeremiah almost had them taken. I want to say.
Could it? Yeah, I think it was. Obviously,
Um, I would say I was. I mean, they are probably going to lose Bradley Bozeman in free agency. I just don't know if they would go with Tyler Linderbaum here. I think I would go Penning.
yeah. Let me look at the board one more time.
I think
I
the other
think that makes
Jordan
sense.
Davis possibly.
I mean,
Possibly.
depending on how much I guess Trayvon Walker rises up too, he's kind of
True.
rising up. Like the Ravens like edge rushers, but yeah, I think based on how their line played this year, I think what's his name is a free agent too, right? The right tackle,
Villanueva.
Villanueva, yeah, and he didn't really have a good year. And then Staley's coming off I don't think he played this year, right?
He's
He had
been
a
hurt. I think, the last couple
season-ending
years.
injury, so there's questions there, and obviously you got your franchise quarterback, you need to protect him.
Yep.
So the Eagles, I think 3 first-round picks, so they have a lot of different options here. Obviously they're back-to-back picks, so there's no rush for them here. They can get the pick. I'm thinking of a wide receiver with one of the 3 picks,
Agree.
and most likely a bigger body. So
Yeah,
I'm thinking Drake London for one of their picks.
I could see it.
Doesn't have to be this one. I actually do think they might take Linderbaum here because they have 3 first-round picks. Kelsey's in his mid-30s. Like they can either play Dickerson at guard or center. Like so, there's versatility there. And Brandon Brooks is also in his 30s, and I don't think played much this season. The Eagles still got a good offensive line. I just think that they're a team that really values it. They kind of take it every year.
Right.
And then I think their last pick, I think they maybe go corner. Or
Honestly, I was thinking Ahmad Gardner here.
Yeah, that's a good bet. Get the corner out, pair him up with Slay. Slay's a little bit older too, so I think this would be a nice duo for right now.
And Maddox in the slot, they would be really good.
Okay. Here I think you kind of wait on Linderbaum. I think you take your wide receiver here because you do have the Chargers and Saints behind you. So I don't think you wait to 19 because there's a good bet the Saints take a receiver. And the Chargers, even though they might not need it right now, depending on what happens to Mike Williams, it could be in play for them as well. So for me, I think Drake London makes the most sense here for them.
Yeah, I like it.
You got Devontae Smith on one side and then get the big body guy.
Yep.
On the other. So the Chargers.
I think Jordan Davis, you have to, right?
I think everyone's given them a defense tackle after their run game this year. I just don't know because the Chargers, they also tend to go like best player available and just like really good value. It's certainly a need. I just don't know if they're going to take a kind of a 2-down player here.
Right. I mean, would they maybe look at Kenyon Green?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because Bulaga has barely played for them. I don't think they can count on him anymore, right tackle, just based on the last 2 seasons. He'll probably end up getting released. I mean, Green's played everything on the line.
Absolutely.
I almost want to go Green here, I think.
I think I'm with you. Help Justin Herbert.
Yeah, obviously they can, like we said, this is before free agency and everything, but I think right now, like, especially what happened with like that, right? It wasn't just like the run game on defense. Like anyone watching that Raiders game, like Crosby was just blowing past their right tackle, and that happened quite a lot this season.
Yep.
So the Saints, this could be a quarterback as well, I guess, but I'm under the assumption that Winston's probably going to sign back there. And besides that, I think it's very clearly wide receiver. Yeah. Michael Thomas hasn't played in 2 years, and then they've gotten really nothing else. I think at this point, I almost wanted to give them Jameson Williams because we're expecting Michael Thomas back. I think he's like the perfect complement.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking either Jameson Williams or Chris Olave here. I would probably, I love Williams. I love Olave too. They're my 2 favorites, but I think I probably would go Williams here, despite the injury.
Yeah, I think it also just makes sense. As good as Olave is too, like route runner, I think with Michael Thomas, you want to just blow past the defense, like with Williams on the other side. Like just give the Saints a different element on offense. So the Eagles, We'll look at the board again. Like we said, we're thinking Linderbaum here, I think.
I was also thinking maybe linebacker, either N'Kobe Dean or Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. I did see something on Eagles. That's who I was giving them on my mock draft initially, but apparently the Eagles don't draft linebackers in the first round. I don't know what that's about. Obviously, when you have 3 first-round picks, maybe that could change, but I don't think their philosophy is like doing that. Like the players make sense, and you could maybe even convince me of an edge here. Like Brandon Graham's
Yeah,
probably going to be leaving.
I just don't know like who they. I mean, maybe Trayvon Walker.
Yeah, or Neil. He kind of plays all over the line. It might be a little bit of liability in the run game, but for right now, it's interesting. So what do you want to what route do you want to go here?
It's tough. I would lean probably Dean personally, but
Defense.
yeah,
All right.
N'Kobe Dean.
Let's give him Trayvon Walker. I do think when it's all said and
Okay.
done, he will end up in the top 20-ish.
Right.
Like he has, obviously, he's not a finished product, but you can't really teach his athleticism, like his size. It's just kind of a mismatch. I think going to a team like Philly would kind of help because they have a kind of a good front already.
Right.
Pittsburgh Steelers, I think we're all going to agree. It's probably offensive line. It could be a quarterback, definitely quarterback.
True.
It could be because obviously right now it's only Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, so those guys are not answers. I think right now, I think we might want to go quarterback, but I do think come draft time it might be a tackle.
I was thinking Linderbaum.
Linderbaum.
Yeah, I was. Or
Okay. Linderbaum, we got to take him somewhere. I know he's a center, but he's one of the best prospects in the draft.
absolutely.
And I think Pittsburgh, they might be kind of a stubborn team and run it back. Just try to see what Mason Rudolph is too. Okay, so the New England Patriots are up. Interesting team. I've seen a lot of tackles, defense tackles being mocked to them. Obviously, they got Christian Barrymore last year. They got a pretty good defense, even though it didn't look like it in the playoffs. They had a top 5 defense this year. Obviously, cornerback may be an issue depending on J.C. Jackson, what happens with him. I almost want to go Devin Lloyd here. I just think like Dante Hightower's a free agent in his 30s. Juwan Bentley's a free agent. I believe Jamie Collins is a free agent. And then Kyle Van Noy also might be released. So that's a massive need. And, the best linebackers are still on the board for us here. So I just think that makes a lot of sense.
And Lloyd provides a ton of like versatility with what he can do, so it makes sense.
And he can also pass rush a little bit. So Belichick will find ways to get him really, probably a day 1 starter, obviously.
Yep. The Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. So another interesting team because it's kind of hard to predict a team that doesn't have a general manager or a coach at the moment. Clearly, they need a lot of help. Wide receiver is one of the positions. Still offensive line for sure.
Yep. I just don't know which offensive lineman. I feel like all the good ones from a value standpoint are already taken.
Yeah, that's the issue. And they did invest in it last year with the first round pick, Leatherwood. Yeah. He's playing all over the line. Hopefully they get that stabilized next year.
The three
maybe a corner like Casey Hayward's a little bit older.
Yep.
Trufant was starting for them at the end too. He's also in his 30s, not part of the long term. I think Andrew Booth kind of makes sense here. I mean, obviously, cornerback it kind of changes throughout the entire draft process, but Booth has great athleticism as well. Like
potential.
Yeah, and realistically, he probably shouldn't have made it here, and maybe he doesn't make it here. But for right now, I think that'd be just based on how the board fell. I think this would be a good pick for the Raiders.
I agree. Cardinals.
Yeah, I think this might make sense where like Jordan Davis goes. This is another team that kind of got ran over. It kind of went unnoticed because they were losing out toward the end of the season on other factors. The offense wasn't playing as well, stuff like that. But their run defense really was poor, basically throughout the entire season. But it was kind of masked when they were winning. But that Seattle game, Week 18 was alarming, and then the Rams playoff game, and it wasn't just those 2 games, but that's like the recent memory, recency bias. But I think Jordan Davis makes sense for them. Obviously, before we move on, I will say, like, I guess edge could make sense for them too. Chandler Jones might be leaving. JJ Watt's in his 30s, but for right now, I think Jordan Davis would be the pick.
I'm with you. Best player available too. So
Cowboys, really interesting team.
Very interesting.
They have a pretty good roster. Like a lot of these positions are filled. Safety makes sense to me, but they never seem to address it early in the draft like we expect. I guess we could go another cornerback to start if you like any of them.
Um, it's interesting. I was almost even thinking Chris Olave just because the future of Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and Cedric Wilson is such an unknown with
And
them.
maybe pair him up with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, at
Yeah,
that point, I think you'd be under the assumption that what 2 out of 3 of those guys are leaving.
you probably at least one, probably maybe two. Um, I was also thinking maybe Daxton Hill, possibly
Yeah, at safety. That's what I think that's what I was thinking too.
can play in the slot corner.
Even Brisker is
Yeah.
certainly in consideration for me. We haven't had a safety go right besides Hamilton, who's kind of like a
Yep.
hybrid. I don't know. I do think there will be another safety taken in round one.
I agree.
You do? You think there'll be one more besides Hamilton?
I think Daxton Hill is a first round player. So
Okay.
did you go him? Do you go Olave?
Um, I almost need to see to believe it that they're going to be letting go of Cooper and Gallup.
Gallup,
Like it
Wilson.
makes, I think one of them will be back, so that it's not as drastic of a need. So I think for right now, until that happens, like in our future mocks, I think for right now, I think it's the best bet to go Daxton Hill.
Yeah, I like it.
And plus, one of their safeties is a free agent too. Had a good year this year, but they don't
Yeah,
really have much cap space. Like Randy Gregory's a free agent, but they're pretty much set up like roster wise. Like it's kind of hard to pick for Dallas.
yep. I think for the Bills here, I know who I would go with.
Let me see. I think I'd go McDuffie.
Trent McDuffie. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to their scheme. Uh,
Right.
and at this point, like the Bills are so close. Like we
Yep.
have everyone seen that Chiefs game. Obviously, they got to be so disappointed with 13 seconds left to let the Chiefs kind of tie it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense to the Bills, and they're kind of lucky that he fell here for them.
I mean, you put him in a secondary, which Davius White, Taron Johnson in the slot, and then Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer as two safeties. I think that's
Yeah, and even if yeah,
better.
and Levi Wallace, I guess depending on what happens with him, he's also a free agent. He had a pretty good year. So
Right.
even if they did sign him back for a year or something, I would still even take McDuffie here. I think at this point.
Agree. From a value standpoint, I love it too. So
Titans. I think this has to be an offensive lineman.
I just don't know who they would take. Darian Kennard, maybe.
He actually just announced today that he was declaring officially. I think it has to be a tackle though. That's the issue. I can
Yeah.
play tackle in college, but he's most likely an interior
Right.
pros.
I don't know if I would take any of the tackles at this point.
I think the only one for me would be consideration. I think he actually will fall into round one is Rainman.
Okay.
Again. So we'll make that as a future projection. I'm gonna pick him here. I think we'll just kind
Okay.
of put it out there. I've seen him in a few mocks in round one, but it's not really a popular name right now going round one. Falele is kind of interesting, but like there's questions about his weight and stuff, but he certainly had a good year. But I don't think the rest of these are first round material right now. Raymond was the only one that might be like edging there. And Titans are kind of also in a good situation. Obviously, it sucks what happened with Isaiah Wilson the last couple of years, where obviously he's not on the roster anymore. But that was the assumption that he was going to be like the future right tackle. It didn't happen, and this year, well, last year they were using Dennis Kelly, and this year was just a mess at the tackle position. So need to get that locked down, whether it's here or for agency. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are up. This one's so interesting because we don't know for sure if Brady's retiring. Like it's just kind of up in the air. I think he'll come back, but it's not. It's definitely more of a question than I was thinking it was going to be, because he's been saying some cryptic tweets about like, how his family kind of deserves him being there and stuff. So it could be the end of Brady, and then that makes their offseason way more interesting, because at that point they might end up losing a lot of players you thought were coming back besides Brady. For right now, I've seen Dotson mocked to them a lot, and
Okay.
I think that makes sense in the fact that maybe Godwin leaves,
Right.
and then you kind of get someone to stretch the field next to Evans. They're also another good roster. I could see an edge rusher here. I'm not sure who they would take, like because
Maybe Jermaine Johnson.
yeah, I was thinking him too. Like he's probably gonna be a riser from the Senior Bowl. His athleticism was off the charts.
Right.
Shaq Barrett's in his 30s. Jason Pierre-Paul, I can't see coming back. He's also in his 30s.
Yep.
Obviously, they just took Joe
Tryon.
Yeah, from Washington. So like it's not maybe
As big a need.
as big a need. It's interesting.
It's a good question.
I almost
They
want to go. I
could
almost
could
want
lose
to go
Carlton Davis as well. Like maybe they go Kyrie Elam or Roger McCreary.
if they lose Carlton Davis. Yeah,
They're a huge unknown, honestly.
yeah, they are. Um, but I think they're gonna franchise tag Carlton Davis.
Okay, so that would take corner out.
I almost want to go Johnson because
Jermaine
I think there's still a chance that Godwin might even come back on a 1 year deal
Okay,
with his ACL. I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion he might have left without it, but I think that kind of offers them a possibility. And then if Brady comes back, obviously for 1 more year, Godwin might just say, you know, the last
Oh,
run with Brady.
yep.
Packers, they're so hard to draft for. Another team just kind of like in the situation. They might be more realistic though to blow it all up. I think it's going to end up happening. I think they're going to lose both Smiths. This might have been a good spot for Jermaine Johnson. I think they're going to lose both Za'Darius
Yep.
and Preston.
Yep.
But they never seem to go against. They never kind of seem to follow the board. They kind of go all over the place around one. I'm going to say I think Chris Olave here.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you can
I
maybe
feel like
a Dotson as well, but
either one, yeah.
yeah, and it
I
just
would
because like all the teams left in the playoffs all have like more than one weapon, more than one receiver. Like the
right.
Packers, as good as and they should have won the game, yes, but all season like it just and in this game as well, Rodgers made the mistake of kind of locking into Adams on that third down play while Lazard is streaking wide open. So like he predetermined where he threw, and that has a lot to do with he doesn't have any trust in the other receivers. The other receivers had literally six targets, I think, throughout the entire game with the Niners, and Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams had like 20 plus combined.
Right.
So like clearly they need another option that Rodgers trusts if he's there. And even if he's not there, I guess makes sense in the fact that Jordan Love, I mean, he's not a rookie, but essentially he only has one career start under his belt. Get him all the help. And then hypothetically, if the Packers do end up tagging and trading Adams, then you really have nothing at receiver.
Exactly.
So I think a receiver works in every single scenario for the Packers.
Yeah, I like Olave there. The Bengals need offensive line. I just don't know if there's any good ones they would be able to take.
At this point, I'm looking at the interior, but I don't think they go that route.
I agree.
I
They
think
could address it in free agency too. So
maybe they go. I'm thinking edge again, or
the two I was thinking were DeMarvin Leal and Kyrie Elam.
yeah, I think Leal does find a way in round one. We mentioned him like way back in the 20s. It's just kind of hard to see where exactly he fits. I think the Bengals would make sense because they have already kind of their main guy there in Henderson, and they obviously have good guys in the middle like DJ Reader and stuff. I think they keep adding to it. I don't think it's finished yet, and obviously they don't. They can still address tackle. They might be a team we mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned them for Tunsil. Like maybe they find the tackle or something in free agency, and then you kind of this kind of best player available as well for them.
Right.
When you also consider a need, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
Dolphins, another team that needs O line, and there's nothing really there.
Yeah, they obviously don't need corner.
No, Dotson. They don't really need Dotson.
This is tough. Maybe Nakobe Dean.
I was thinking Nakobe Dean too.
It's tough because like they still don't have a coach, obviously.
Right.
They are pretty talented on the defense side of the ball, so I don't know if you want to just kind of like because basically their front office told you that they're betting on Tua. That was basically the main reason why Flores is out of there. Obviously, he didn't get along with Greer either, but that's Tua's part of the equation. So I think it almost kind of makes sense to just invest in the offense, even if you have to reach here. Like Nakobe Dean makes a lot of sense, the player-wise, best player available. I just don't think the Dolphins have that luxury of following. Like it just seems like if they don't get Tua right, everyone's out anyway.
Right. So maybe do they go Jahan Dotson? I don't know.
You got Waddle, Parker. Parker got hurt a lot. He's been hurt a lot. You know.
They did sign Will Fuller last year, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Dotson brings a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think let's go Dotson here. I think he might.
Yeah, he's definitely a first-round player. So.
Yeah, he might sneak out again like Elijah Moore did last year.
Right.
For certain other reasons, but I don't think this draft is as deep as it was last year. And I think right now we only have two quarterbacks going round one. So maybe if four does go in round one, then maybe he does sneak out of the first round. But for right now, I think like it's like certain teams, obviously, when you have the young quarterback, you got to just like even though you might
Excellent.
sacrifice a player like Kobe Dean, you got to just make sure that you didn't fail him. You kind of gave him everything needed to just be successful. And you're playing in a division against literally Josh Allen and the Bills. So, and I think the Dolphins almost have to go primarily offense, especially because their defense is already good. So
Right.
the Lions, I think this is another team that would have made a lot of sense for Dotson.
Yep.
Clearly, wide receivers are pretty big need. I don't think there's any other first round receivers.
I think you'd almost address it in a second at that point with Bell
Yeah,
or Pickens. I think the Kobe Dean here
yeah, that make a lot of sense. I think.
adds to the
Yeah,
defense with him and Hutchinson.
and then they can focus on because they still have Jared Goff for one more year.
Right.
The Lions are they have been building up the roster. Had a pretty good draft last year. I think if you can add two players like this in the first round, it would certainly help the defense.
Certainly. In the
And
front set.
The
Wow.
Chiefs,
Ooh, it's a tough one.
interesting. Does
Maybe
Christian
Rob
Harris find his
McCreary.
way into round one? A linebacker certainly a need, I think, for them.
I think I was thinking Roger McCreary. They could lose Charvarius Ward and Mike Hughes is a free agent.
That's a good point. Well, I
Uh,
don't know if there's that many corners that go on one.
true. Yeah.
Obviously, this is
Kyrie
1.0. A lot of things, like we said, have changed between now and
and
even the combine. Like there's risers and fallers. For right now, I think, yeah, I think McCreary makes sense. I just don't know how many. I think that's what 6 or 7 corners. I don't think that ends up happening. That's just not what happens.
5. We had Stingley, Gardner, Booth, McDuffie.
Okay,
We didn't have Elam. We didn't have go in the first round yet.
that's a good point. So yeah, I do think it'll be 5 or 6 come draft time. I mean, Emerson could be a late riser. I think that for sure. He's
Right.
kind of already moved into round 2. Yeah, I think McCreary makes sense for them.
Right. Either him or Elam to me are very close. You could go McCreary.
Okay,
That
so
was,
that's it. I'll show one more time for everyone watching. Um, I'm kind of happy with the way it turned out,
me
honestly.
too. That
I
was
think a
fun.
lot of these picks make sense. Obviously, there was some forced. I will say some forced picks, not that many, but in terms of like we kind of explained it where some of these teams just kind of need to invest in a certain position or a certain yeah, just basically a certain position for their offense.
Yeah, I like the value for a lot of these players where they ended up. We only had 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think that will be 3 or 4. I'll say 3 by draft time. It's going to be interesting to follow. I do think a lot of these players we picked, obviously, I'll say like 4 or 5 end up just falling out of round 1 just for whatever reason. But I do think we hit kind of the majority or as good as you can in January for the
Yep.
first round players. And but let us know what you guys think for your team. I'm interested to see like what position you guys are thinking or what players maybe are you valuing or hoping falls to you. And yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, for sure. Everything Ryan just said, and then later on in the week we'll have our game reviews from the divisional round, and we'll have our previews for big conference championship weekend ahead. So stay
Yeah.
tuned. Thanks for all the views and support.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll see you guys soon.